there's a lot of candidates, as you mentioned, the 12, 13 independent candidates that came in who were all reform-minded. Only two are from the same party. I think Najat Saliba and Mark Dow are from the same party. The others are all from different parties or individuals. So when you look at the fact that they're fractious, and looking at the power that they wield, it becomes diluted because they're entitled as independents to vote on their own beliefs and viewpoints. For the future, wouldn't it be much more effective if we developed, or groups within Lebanon, the change groups, or formed coalitions and formed change parties, whether it's one or two or three, and to really pull that together on issues, on platforms that address all of the issues that a government should be addressing. Because what we need to do is be able to really hone in on where the focus needs to be for the 2026 elections and start really pushing that direction.
It's a good question, and it's a good point. And I would say what I've said to the MPs many times myself, you don't get to be party just because you're not the other party. You're not sectarian. You're not sectarian. That's step one. You need to have a political ideology, which is a manifestation of: are you on the right? Are you on the left? What do you think about this policy? What do you think about that policy? And what happened was that this change bloc got into parliament by virtue of not being the establishment.
Yeah.
It didn't espouse a political ideology. They didn't say, okay, we're on the right and we're on the left. And there is diversity amongst those people, and that's a good thing, by the way. And I don't think we should expect them to come together if they're politically diverse. We need people to be coherent in their policy. Otherwise, we're just falling into the same identity politics that come to play with the establishment. So I think what's going on here is a political maturity that is, you look at that change bloc, you see people on the left, you see people on the right. I mean, you see people in that change bloc have a position that the banks should take over all the assets of the state. That we shouldn't get our money back that was stolen from us in any short period of time, that there should be no accountability for the bankers because they're completely neoliberal and right wing. On the other spectrum, you see people that are completely left wing, right, and saying that we should reappropriate everything and the state should own everything and so on and so forth. You cannot square that, right? And let's put the egos to the side, because there's a lot of ego going on over there. But we need to have a diverse independent movement. I don't think that everybody wants to have a box. This is where the independents are. We are. You're not something because you're not something else, right? You're something because you have something to offer. Mm. And I think it's an issue of political maturity that is coming. But it takes time, and we don't have the resources. I say we as the independents, because I count myself as one of them. We don't have the resources that the establishment parties have because they have those international backers. So you work with very little resources, but we have better narratives, and we have history on our side, because we know that the way to run the country is not to do horse trading until you get what you want, and then you forget about everybody else. And that's how it's been so far. But I think that the idea of having a party is probably misguided. We need several parties, and we need them to work together, and that's how mature politics happens. I mean, parties make coalitions, and then they govern.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
Yeah, and the point that you mentioned, that the traditional parties do have a lot of support and financial backing, but the independents don't. And I speak for the diaspora because I'm a member and part of a significant global organisation where we get together quite regularly to discuss this. There's a lot of diaspora that would or that want to support the independents, but they need them to act like a legitimate party or with policies, not independent, because those individuals aren't going to change Lebanon. It's as a bloc. And one of the major considerations over the last 3 years has been, this disappointment that they're fractured. But I'm with you. They're fractured, but in a clear line. Like, these are their views. They're leftists, they're rightists, they're centrists. That's okay, because they all want change. They all want reform. They're not about corruption and the old guard and nepotism and clientelism. So, but that's political. That's, as we mentioned, maturity. But there is a significant work being done in the diaspora, very powerfully, very committedly, that want to see some semblance of unity or clarity, that these blocks are going to work together in the next elections, because that's how real change will happen within the parliament. So I take that, present that to you, and hopefully we'll be able to talk about that more.
Yeah, I feel like those MPs work together. I know because I work with them a lot. They work together on issues, and I think that when things become about issues, then we're talking about politics. When things are about identity, then we're talking about people who have egos. This is not where we need to go. But I think it's unrealistic to think that the Change MPs could form a cohesive party. They could form an electoral bloc that is based on shared principles. I think that's what people in the diaspora want, because of course they're not living in Lebanon. They're not going through the day-to-day every day. They're speaking to their families. They're speaking to their friends. And they're getting the message, sort of, what should I do now? Like, the elections came along. I have some power. I have a vote. I want to use it, but I want it to be simple, because I can vote for one party. And unfortunately, that's not the way it works. Also, the electoral law is extremely complex and silly, and it's confusing. So what I would say to the diaspora is, try to keep your ear to the ground, speak to your friends and family. If you want to make a change, then try to keep abreast of what's going on. But at the end of the day, I don't see a unified party coming together. There will be a clear choice in the next elections between the establishment and change. It will be evident, and you will know. But it will be based on individual names. And hopefully there will be an electoral bloc, at least just for the elections. But we will have to see. That's at least a year and a half away.